Oh boy, disclaimer.
My name is King Olly, and here I am to sing. I've got amazing content, hail the Origami King. There'll be skits, countdowns, reviews, and many more. It's gonna be funny and entertaining, that's what you're here for. Well, you came to the right place, where everyone will know. This is gonna blow your mind. This is the King Olly Show! Hello everyone! I'm finally here, and about time too! Before I start, the resolution of my logo behind me now has a higher quality, as my other one was blurry. I apologize for that. Anyway, this next episode is where things start to get way more entertaining and interesting. So, I had a voting poll of who will be coming to my show on today's episode. My sister, Mario, or Bowser. But the results have already been decided. Today's guest is my sweet, kind, caring, and wholesome sister who cares for her friends, especially Luigi. I'm looking at you, Solo! But enough of that. Coming to my show is my sister Olivia!
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to be on the show! Brother, can you believe it? You and me on your own show? Excitement! So much excitement all the way! I'm so hyped for this! I'm so hyped!
Yes, indeed. So, are you excited for today's episode?
Oh my goodness! Yes! Yes!
Let the episode begin! Final bosses are considered the final challenge of all video games and are often the main antagonist of a game's story, and the defeat of that character provides a positive conclusion to the game. One hand, we've had amazing final bosses with interesting music, those who put up a good fight and are memorable, like my fight, being easily the most whimsical and cinematic in the entire Mario series. And I'm not a joke! I'm looking at you, Super 𝔬𝔫𝔫!
Calm down, Ollie. Remember, not as many people have had the chance to experience your insanely awesome fight as have experienced the older games. Remember, you aren't even 2 years old yet.
Yeah, of course. But on the other hand, we have the opposite. There are final bosses who show up out of nowhere, being the opposite of epic. Bosses that rely too much on luck, unmemorable fights, disinteresting music, and their fights are cheap as they bring so much frustration, as well as some that are really, really boring!
Because boring games are not fun.
As for rules, like every final boss countdown that you see on YouTube, we're including final bosses that put up a fight, one per game and one per franchise. As for the worst final bosses, we're also not including final bosses that are hardly even called a fight, or those who stand there and do nothing, as those can be finished in less than a minute. We are disqualifying Lucian from Fable 2, MB from Metroid Other M, Cortex from Crash Bandicoot 2, Cortex Strikes Back, Schrouser from Mario & Luigi Partners in Time, and Bowser from Mario Party 9.
Well, that's a specific list. It's enough for its own top 5.
Ha ha ha, yeah. But seriously, how are they even battles? Also, they have to be the actual final boss in the game. So, no Count Black or Antasma as their penultimate bosses or pre-final bosses. They don't count.
Obviously.
In both worst and best final bosses, we're including those who actually put up a fight, whether in terms of being fun or being frustrating and cheap. Now, what I would do is torture myself with worst first to get that over with, and then calm down with best right after. So, sister, are we ready?
Ready when you are, brother.
Okay, let's begin the countdown! Yup, Arkham Asylum, one of, if not, the best superhero game ever made.
Personally, the only superhero games I've ever played are Lego ones, but I'll take your word for it.
Sure. This game really does have a great feeling of escalation with its bosses, each one more threatening than the last, and each one feeling entirely unique. Throughout the entire game, there is a build-up to the final confrontation with the Joker, and credit where it is due, I don't think anyone expected what we got. And disappointment is what we got in the end!
Okay, what the heck is that? The heck is that? What?
For a game which has a boss fight that is totally out of place, we get Batman Arkham Asylum, specifically the final boss of the game. It's not just the Joker, no. It's the Joker on the powerful Titan serum. Not only is this totally uncharacteristic of the Joker to be using pure brawn to take down Batman, but the fight itself isn't that much fun either. The Joker is a great rival to Batman, not because he can match strength with a caped crusader. He's a great rival because he's incredibly unpredictable and mad. There's no telling what the Joker might do. And for a superhero that likes to play mind games with his enemies, Joker being absolutely crazy makes him a true test for Batman. Regardless, the actual fight is rather boring.
I never thought I'd ever hear the Joker get called boring.
First, you dodge Titan Joker's advances, and then he retreats to a high-up platform like a coward, where he calls in a bunch of henchmen to rough up Batman. It's another long-winded tiff between Batman and a series of generic grunts that players can probably get past in their sleep after this far into the game.
That description also reminds me of the Lego games. There's a lot of generic grunts.
Yes, quite right. After the last grunt is unconscious, Batman can use his grappling hook to grab the steroid advertisement Joker and pull him off his platform.
Steroid advertisement Joker! Oh my goodness, I'm sorry, I can't take it!
This dazes him enough for the Bat to get some nice shots in, taking Joker's health down a third. This pattern continues until Titan Joker falls for good. It's just a tiresome battle that goes on for too long, and it completely messes up what the Joker is all about. The latter issue might not matter to those who are casual Dark Knight fans, but for the rest of us, it was a pretty unflattering version of Batman's greatest enemy. You're not even fighting the Joker!
At least let us fight the man himself!
Yes! You spend the majority of the fight dispatching the same random goons you have fought through the rest of the game until you can pull Mr. J down from his platform and smack him around a few times before he retreats and sends more goons after you. There's no real satisfaction to it.
But now it's time to put this aside for...
So, here we are, the final boss of the Crash Bandicoot trilogy. It's fittingly epic, as you face off against not only Cortex once more, but the evil mask that's been giving him orders this whole time, 𝔬𝔬𝔫. Except, you're not alone as 𝔬𝔬𝔫 steps up to the plate to duke it out with his brother!
Hey, why exactly are sibling fights so common in video games? I mean, there was our fight for one.
It's a setup, worthy of the finale for sure, as Crash, you're tasked with avoiding Cortex's blasts and his mines, while attempting to approach the scientist. At the same time, the two masks are engaged in an increasingly explosive battle which you must avoid at all costs. Eventually, when Cortex's guard is down, you can smack him down a shaft in the center of the arena for some damage, before he's fished out again by 𝔬𝔬𝔫. The fight itself is pretty good and rather multi-layered for a Crash Bandicoot boss battle.
That's definitely true from what I know of Crash Bandicoot, which is admittedly not much on the finer details, but still enough to know that, yeah.
Music-wise, it's also a winner. The music is excellent. The only downside is that once again it's a little easy, especially for the final boss. Cortex again suffers from only having 3 hits. I mean, in Crash Bandicoot 1, Cortex went down in 5 hits. But what's great about this though is Cortex's characterization, not just here, but in Warped in general. By this point, he really doesn't care anymore. It's funny to see him basically being pushed around by 𝔬𝔬𝔫. Plus, defeating Cortex will earn you the immortal line,
Maybe I should retire to a nice big beach with a nice big drink and a woman with nice big bags of ice for my head.
Okay, next entry. I don't want to dwell on that phrase for much longer.
More disappointment on the way. I hate Spyro Enter the Dragonfly, or should I say Spyro 02, because this is the Spyro equivalent of Sonic 06, except this came before that abomination. Both are rushed games with a ton of glitches, making both of them really unplayable.
Oh my goodness, you're right.
At least Sonic 06 had an epic final battle against Solaris. But with Spyro Enter the Dragonfly, we get the opposite of epic. Oh my god, this fight is so terrible! And before I start, this is the only boss in the whole game. Well, at least it's better than nothing. The fight has 3 phases, like the fantastic fight from Spyro 2. How did the developers make this fight worse?
Enlighten us, Ollie.
Well, 𝕝𝔤𝔁 first pulls up a shield of ice spheres that force you to use your fire breath to melt them and attack 𝕝𝔤𝔁. This is easier said than done, however, as 𝕝𝔤𝔁 zips around the arena way too fast! Get back here so I can attack you!
Dang it, that Sonic 06 comparison was almost too accurate.
Not only do 𝕝𝔤𝔁's ice spheres act as a shield, but they can also be fired as homing shots. These shots have a ridiculously pro accuracy, and the animation you go through lasts a bit too long. Long enough for 𝕝𝔤𝔁 to spam these shots at you until you're dead. Once you've hit 𝕝𝔤𝔁, phase 2 begins. Does he become more of a challenge now? Is he gonna make the fight good now?
Yes?
Of course not! He does the exact same thing, but with fire instead of ice, forcing you to use your ice breath instead. But it plays out the exact same way the first phase did, making this phase pointless. So far, the first 2 phases are both identical, but the only difference is instead of ice, it's fire. I mean, come on! Do something different for once!
Developmentals were so much more creative with the fire, ice, and all that.
Yes, that is true. After all of that, the fight still isn't over, because now he casts a spell on himself, turning him into a horrifying monster, which could be terrifying for very young gamers. Okay, I'm not scared, I'm not frightened, I've seen scarier final bosses that scream nightmare fuel. I'm not intimidated by 𝕝𝔤𝔁 turning himself into a giant troll.
I kind of am, though.
The third phase isn't any better, as 𝕝𝔤𝔁's attacks still have the same effects as the first 2 phases. 0 difference! Zilch! The game can also glitch at times by having 𝕝𝔤𝔁's AI completely vanish out of his model, which will prevent the fight from progressing.
Oh no, not a soft lock!
The music is absolutely terrible. It starts out pretty good at first, but then it becomes a clustered mess at the end, right down to where it sounds like Stuart Copeland is bashing his head against the piano. And, oh my goodness, this has to be one of the worst final boss themes I've ever heard in a video game. All you get for completing 100% of the game is 𝕝𝔤𝔁 gaining a 3rd phase and transformation in his final battle, and an ending cutscene after the final battle is somewhat insulting for fans who got the patience to fully complete it. What kind of game requires you to fully 100% the game in order to see the ending?
I'm pretty sure I could list a few. Wait a minute, I just remembered the worst part! It's entirely possible to glitch yourself into the final boss as early as about the start of the game. Speedrunners use this as a tactic, and when you this in a video!
I hate World of Light. I really do. It has tedious pacing, a mandatory boss rush, most of the mode just consisting of spirit matches, having some unfair spirit battles, and having not much cutscenes or bosses. Overall, a boring story mode and a complete waste of time. But is the final boss worth it? Definitely! If you want to talk about high stakes though, the final battle against Gallim and 𝕮𝔬𝔫 in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is the epitome of it. After fighting them separately, followed by Master Hand and Crazy Hand going to town on the evil clones, our heroes dodge attacks while platforming up, stopping to battle both light and dark clones, before facing off against all of the game's bosses again, aka another boring boss rush. Gallim and 𝕮𝔬𝔫 collide multiple times before the player fights them both, avoiding their screen-wide attacks and finally putting an end to the cosmic battle in World of Light. Negatives? Once they become stunned, the other will try to attack it. Back off if this happens, as the attack will do 40 to 50% damage, and will score a good chunk of damage on the other. So this attack can negate your opportunity to attack in exchange for them to attack. They can also hit each other with their own attacks, but it will hardly make a difference. They can also take their sweet time to unleash another attack. So, that's your opportunity to hit them. This is a fantastic finale that puts your skills to the test, with neither side helping you against the other. The music is phenomenal, as this feels like the true final battle in all of the Super Smash Bros. Games. Especially that Ultimate is the last entry. Even though I absolutely hate World of Light more than Subspace Emissary from Brawl, the final boss fight with Gallim and 𝕮𝔬𝔫 is really awesome and epic.
Oh, sorry, I was so distracted by the awesome fight to make any comments. Not contents, comments. Sorry. I promise I know how to speak!
I don't blame you. Next! My sister loves Psychonauts!
I really do! I love Psychonauts! Raz is one of the most charming protagonists in any game ever. Oh my goodness, I love him and I want to give him a big hug!
But we can agree with everyone that the Meat Circus is the worst level and the final boss is no better.
That is very true. The Meat Circus is infamous for a reason.
So, after an unforgiving final level,
escort missions suck!
You reach the big top and you are greeted by the Butcher, who is a mental manifestation of Coach Oleander's father and is the personal demon responsible for his evil behavior as he's going around killing rabbits. Anyways, the 4-phase final battle starts with you fighting the Butcher. He's a laughably easy boss and at the same time annoying. After you beat him, you are greeted by evil Augustus, who is the manifestation of Raz's fear towards his father. In Phase 2, you have to climb up the circus while insta-kill water rises, and Raz's manifestation of his father tries to kill you. Combine that with the tight platforming and you have the level's most ill-reputed bit. And it's really frustrating.
I'm honestly dreading playing this part. At least the Steam version patched it to have more checkpoints.
You're right. By the time you revisit the big top, you fight Raz's dad and the Butcher working together. Is that gonna make things harder? No! I'm not joking that the 3rd phase is actually easier than the other 2 phases. Should the fight be harder as we get to the next phases? And when you defeat them both, they come back as the 2-headed Dad Monster.
Props to the designers. Said monster is, in fact, very scary.
True. Will things get better with the final phase? No! The fight is like Titan Joker again, but it is more boring and not fun. Well, the 2-headed Dad Monster did come before Titan Joker. The worst part of all is that beating this boss is painfully simple. All you have to do is run away from him and dodge his painfully easy attacks, which are really easy to avoid, until your power builds up, and then attack him if you can. Perhaps my biggest complaint of all is that this final boss is boring. Like, after all, who would run away from the boss and wait until you're fully charged and punch him? There's no challenge. Now, there are two things I like. One, the music is great.
Yes! It really is! Man on the internet even has a great epic lyrical cover of the main theme of the level. It's awesome. Plus, said theme is very catchy. It also gives people trauma when they hear it. Like, I've seen multiple people when playing Psychonauts 2. When they get to the flea circus and the meat circus starts playing, they're all just like, oh no, not this again! Sorry.
And two, this level introduces Raz's father, and their reunion is very heartwarming and touching.
So to sum it all up, great concept and story, but the execution in gameplay is pretty poor.
I thought final bosses are supposed to be challenging, not laughably easy. Talk about anticlimactic and pathetic.
Aye. It was Double Fine's first game though, and this is the only really bad part of it, so make sure to cut them a bit of slack, brother.
Oh boy, things are gonna get more exciting here and there. So, Kirby final bosses like Marx, Nightmare, 𝕬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬𝔬 𝔬𝔤𝔢!
Oh my goodness, 𝔬𝔤𝔢 is adorable!
𝔬𝔤𝔢 is a well-written and memorable antagonist. Before the battle, you are greeted by a very intense cutscene. It's revealed that 𝔬𝔤𝔢 has been using Kirby and his friends to steal the Master Crown, thereby making him a traitor to them. What does he do? He steals it and uses it to conquer the universe!
Dun dun dun!
Before the battle, you fight against the 𝔲𝔢𝔠𝔢 cutter while riding Landia, which has its own selection of attacks, and, while not the most challenging part of the battle, it's incredibly fun to literally shoot at it with Landia's blast.
Oh, this is kind of reminding me of that time Mario had to fight off your paper airplanes, brother.
Yes, indeed. Once you've done that, you finally get to face 𝔬𝔤𝔢 himself, and being the final boss, he has a huge variety of cool and flashy attacks, such as launching out energy spheres, creating black holes, firing an energy beam, and so much more. When 𝔬𝔢𝔢 is down to the last bit of his health in the first phase, he will create a shield that can only be damaged by super abilities. This part in particular is super intense. Once you've done the first phase, the way that Kirby defeats 𝔬𝔢𝔢 in the first phase is epic. Just watch!
Whoa!
But we're not done yet! It gets better! The Master Crown revives him into his final form, and the epicness has reached up to maximum. And it is amazing! In the second phase, all of 𝔬𝔢𝔢's attacks have been recreated, some of which have also been altered. For example, while he fires the energy beam like normal, he will also fire an energy beam at a portal and will launch out the energy beam from the portal in many ways.
Dang, that is a cool move!
𝔬𝔤𝔢 also gets new attacks in the second phase, such as going through portals and ramming at you. During the second phase, 𝔬𝔢𝔢 can also use dark versions of Kirby's super abilities, deplete his health, you finally beat the game, and watch this incredible ending! 𝔬𝔢𝔢 has a lot of health in both forms, so this battle is going to be long and enjoyable. Oh, and guess what? 𝔬𝔢𝔢's EX form is even better. Not only does he get even more attacks, but his second form gets redesigned and gets its own name. 𝔬𝔢𝔢 Soul. which will be a staple for the 3D Kirby games. 𝔬𝔫 has such wicked and cool designs, such as an example goes to his final form.
He looks so terrifying, and yet still kind of cute. Oh, and not to mention the music. You know a song is good when man on the internet or Juno Songs has made a cover of it.
The atmosphere is amazing and beautiful. So overall, this is a very fun and challenging battle. So, why is he number 3?
Yeah, why is he only number 3?
Well, he would be higher if he didn't have 2 problems. First of all, some of 𝔬𝔫's attacks can get a bit too tricky to avoid, such as the Dark Super Flame, and finally, there's no epic finisher in the second phase, as you simply just have to deplete 𝔬𝔫's health, normally like the previous 7 bosses. I mean, yeah, you did an epic finisher in phase 1, so why can't you do it again here? But despite that, 𝔬𝔬 truly is an awesome final boss from the one and only Kirby series.
Someday I want to meet Kirby. He seems so friendly.
Now we're diving further into really bad final bosses. As bad as those previous entries were, they at least had some redeeming qualities. But because we're at the final 2 bosses in the worst final boss category, this is the part where I'm absolutely livid right now!
Brother, please, we haven't even started talking about the actual boss yet. Don't go ballistic now!
What franchise have I not tackled? How about we look at some final bosses from the Sonic series that are just awful? We had some really great final bosses in the franchise, but I'm covering the worst ones by far. So, I was gonna put the Time Eater on the list, but I can't. The music is good, but not as good as the other past and present Sonic final boss themes. And the 3DS version of the Time Eater is much better.
Plus, such a cool name! Time Eater. It sounds so menacing and deadly, but yet also simple.
Too bad that this fight can eat your time.
Okay, that was a really good one.
Thanks. Am I gonna put Dark Gaia on the list? No. As bad as the PS3 and Xbox 360 versions were, the PS2 and Wii versions are far better. That fight had great music and the atmosphere was fantastic.
And once again, cool concept and name.
Yep. So, what is number 2 on the worst list? Simple! The final boss of Sonic the Hedgehog 4 Episode 1!
Oh no.
Before you fight the final boss, like in Sonic Advance 2, you must fight all of these bosses you fought earlier again in a tedious boss rush. Okay, once that's done and over with, you fight the Death Egg Robot, or rather Metal Robotnik. This fight is horrendous because this boss is a complete copy-paste of the final boss of Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
That's already sounding bad enough being a straight-up copy.
So, what makes this fight different? Well, you have rings and homing attacks, and because the robot's hitbox is enormous, you could just make Sonic spam his attacks on it. Yeah, Sonic 2's final boss had no rings and the Death Egg Robot was absurdly hard. But it is a much more epic and difficult final boss encounter compared to the first game's final zone. So man up and fight the damn robot!
Brother, language!
Sorry, sister. Now, as I was saying, after you beat Phase 1, Phase 2 is an absolute annoyance. Metal Robotnik will become shrouded in electricity, preventing you from attacking it normally. In Phase 2, Sonic has to knock the arms right back at it to stun it and do damage to it. However, the arm's hitbox is very inconsistent, as sometimes he'll knock them back, and other times he just takes damage. Also, the robot can fire a laser from its jetpack. The laser itself shoots to an unbearable range. While still stunned, the robot can still attack you if you're not expecting that. Also, the boss's health is also inconsistent, as it's supposed to take 24 hits until it's defeated, but after that amount of hits, it keeps on attacking like it has health left.
24?
Why? After dealing 24 hits, the robot will launch itself into the air and punch the ground, but the location as to where it will punch the ground is randomized. If you lose, you have to beat this boss all over again. Once you finally beat him, there's 0 victory! Zilch!
Dang it, I'm so tempted to make another Psychonauts reference here. There's a character named Bobby Zilch. Oh no, I'm thinking of Bobby again, no!
Nope, just a sigh of relief that it was finally over. This boss has an obnoxious difficulty spike and has an inconsistent health bar. Oh, the music is ear-bleeding as the final boss theme plays on loop. And that loop lasts for 15 seconds, repeating itself over and over again. I don't like it because it sounds more like a level theme. Hell, calling it a level theme still sounds generous. Thank God episode 2 has a way original final boss, which is why you should skip episode 1 because I don't want them to fight this atrocity. And do you know what the worst part is? It isn't even number 1! Oh, and we'll get to that way later on.
Okay, time to calm down. For the best, brother.
You're right, as we dive into the best category. This can be summed up in one word.
Showtime!
Yes, I knew it would be here!
You knew this would be on here. I mean, how many final boss lists had Dark Bowser and Darkstar Core in them? Not many.
Which is a crime!
This is the most epic confrontation I've seen in a Mario game. The dark entities have become one. The Darkstar takes the form of Bowser, and Forful's bug form is still in its own control. I knew this would be awesome right from the beginning. The cutscene before the fight starts is amazing. With nowhere left to run, Dark Bowser unleashes a dark hurricane over the Mushroom Kingdom, plunging it into darkness. Starlo attempts to encourage Bowser and reveal Mario and Luigi are inside his body the whole time and willing to help him. But the windstorm is too loud for Bowser to hear her. I even love the speech before the fight really starts. The background, as Bowser himself says, is the perfect backdrop for a final battle.
It really is.
And I 100% agree. It's Bowser on Bowser Carnage! I got to fight myself, and honestly, one of the greatest enemies to overcome in your life is yourself! The fight is split into 2 halves, one for Dark Bowser and one for the Darkstar Core. With the Darkstar having the power to copy Bowser's DNA and absorb what's left of Dark Forful, Dark Bowser is one tough foe, and he has ubered versions of Bowser's moves. Delivering sliding punches that hit hard, fling himself in the air with his spike ball form and try to crush you, summoning a giant meteor that splits into smaller meteors that rain down on you while trying to breathe fire on you, and trapping you in a cage as he tries to kill you with a deadly energy ball. All you have to do is deplete Dark Bowser's 1000 HP, or rather 1500 if you equip the challenge medal, and Dark Bowser is done. Or so you thought. He is then fully healed by Dark Forful and grows 3 times larger! Which then you have to deal with an onslaught of dark versions of Bowser's minions at you. Goombas, Koopa Troopers, Thwomps, Bob-ombs, and Bullet Bills.
Very scary.
You have to punch Dark Bowser's stomach to make him spit out what's left of Forful and lose his power. Bowser must then inhale him for the Mario Bros to fight. And this fight gets 10 to 1,000 times cooler! This is it! The last stand of the Mean Bean Machine himself, now fused with the source of all the negative energy. Mario and Luigi must fight this grotesque abomination in their final bid to save the Mushroom Kingdom. Just like Cackleta's soul, Elder Princess Shroob, Dreamy Bowser, and Shiny Robo Bowser, you must take out several parts before exposing the weak point.
A working formula?
Both villains fused as one. The core has some crazy attacks that are difficult but fun to dodge. By breaking 𝕰𝔻's glass eyes and his three-leg appendages, you can finally directly damage the Darkstar core itself. After you finally destroy it, we get a really badass moment of Bowser finishing off his dark doppelganger with one KO punch! And it is spectacular! Using the power of fire and stars, Bowser delivers the most damaging standard attack in the series, killing Dark Bowser and restoring peace to the Mushroom Kingdom, and brings to a satisfying conclusion to the best game of 2009.
I need to play this game!
What's amazing about this fight is that this right here feels like the ultimate showdown, more so than the other Mario games. Dark Bowser is imposing, and fighting 𝕰𝔻one last time inside Bowser's body is intense. And the music, it is phenomenal!
I mean, this channel does have at least 5 mashups, so it'd have to be good for that.
No wonder it got 5 mashups of this already popular song. Easily the best song in the game and the best video game song of 2009. This feels like the end game of the Mario series, as the unique dynamic with both Bowser and Mario and Luigi on the same side led to the best final boss of the Mario series. So, if Dark Bowser and Darkstar Core are amazing, why isn't it number 1?
Yeah, why is this only number 2, Ollie? It's amazing!
While the original is still spectacular, the 3DS version of the fight is a downgrade. Sure, it plays the same with much cooler graphics, don't get me wrong, but the music in this, while it's good for some, but for me, it's inferior to the original.
I certainly agree with you there, brother.
While Bowser's sprites in Overworld are amazing, I don't think I can say the same for the battle sprites. They look weird. I don't know why. You know how Broggy Bonker used to look goofy, but still looked right? Well, in the remake, it looks weird. Not weird in a goofy way, just weird. Dark Bowser was very easy in the original, and difficulty didn't raise in the remake. It just looks the same. It could have been harder. For me, there are only 2 new harder things. The jail attack looks definitely harder, and those weird spinning dark balls from the core that are harder than the spinning spear lance thing. Nothing else got buffed. There were HP upgrades on the remake, but nothing crazy. Still easy. They could have launched new attacks. Dark Bowser's sprite looks weird, but not bad. Dark 𝕰𝔻looks like a copy of the original sprite, but with some shading. The Darkstar core looks the same. The only 3D things are the limbs. Could have been better, like 𝔂𝔂𝔂's soul from the Superstar Saga remake. Here, he's half 2D and half 3D. The song doesn't end when Darkstar Core dies and Bowser delivers the final KO punch. Before the fight starts, Bowser looks like he's getting pushed by the storm. In the original game, Bowser was resisting the storm, showing how cool, strong, and badass he is to survive that. In the remake, it looks like he's losing against the Dark Storm. So yeah, the 3DS remake lacked a lot of things that made the original great. But despite that, this boss battle remains absolutely breathtaking and easily one of my favorites.
I have to agree with all of this. Awesome battle, but did we really need a remake of this game? It was perfect as is. But before we get to number 1 of the worst final bosses, here are some dishonorable mentions before my brother starts to lose his temper.
Bowser from Super Mario Galaxy 2. The last phase is a joke, just like Super Dementio.
Nasty Note from Spyro 1. You gotta give credit to how the name is spelled, though. It's clever and fun.
Yeah, I can agree on that. Bitter Cold from Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Gates to Infinity. Shadow Queen, but done worse.
Bowser from Super Mario Sunshine. What is in that hot tub, and why is it green? I'm scared to find out.
Necron from Final Fantasy IX. A boss who shows up out of nowhere.
Sigma from Mega Man X6. I have no idea who that is.
Bowser from Mario Party 9. Win by doing absolutely nothing.
Dr. Neo Cortex from Crash Bandicoot 2 Cortex Strikes Back. You know, it's funny, he was on both the good and bad sides of the spectrum here.
Baby Bowser and Bowser from Yoshi's New Island. An insult to an awesome final boss.
Dark-based Ganon from Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And I guess Calamity Ganon too? Calamity Ganon was a pretty cool looking fight though, but like Dark-based Ganon, yeah, it's basically just, you're just riding around, shooting arrows, not much.
And the Polygon Man from PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale. Pathetic fight. Before we get to the worst final boss ever...
Let's recap! Number 5, Titan Joker, aka Steroid Advertisement Joker. I'm still not over that.
Number 4, Ripto. Horrible game that competes with Sonic 06.
Number 3, The Butcher and Raz's dad, aka the two-headed dad monster. Great in the narrative sense, but not so much in the gameplay sense.
And number 2, Metal Robotnik. An idea more overused than Nega Wisp armor.
Oh no, it's this guy. Oh no,
No, not this again! My fury is coming back!
Ollie, stay calm!
And number 1 has the most unfair final boss in video game history. If you've seen my previous episode of my hated villains, this guy was number 2. If you've seen him before, then you know exactly. Oh, for crying out loud! 𝕲𝔬𝔫 Jr. is number 1!
Ollie, calm down, please!
I know this has been done to death by many people who made their hated characters and worst final bosses list, but I'm still gonna do it! 𝕲𝔬𝔫 Jr. is my hated video game villain of all time and my second despised villain ever! So, allow me to dissect this battle for you. The first phase of this unfair fight is so easy that you can beat him without taking damage once with no problem. However, to continue the fight, there is a point in which you must lose a quick time event against him.
Wait, lose the quick time event? Are you sure you said that right, brother? What?
But you wouldn't know that the first time playing unless you looked it up. It's really easy and really boring. Oh, then comes the worst part of the fight. Phase 2! Now the fight goes from pathetic to unfair and sadistic. Jasper has attacks that are so brutal to dodge, especially a triple teleport punch. He's got other unfair moves like a grab and a swarm of laser bats.
Laser bats! Oh wait, his name is Bat, sorry. Yeah, it does kind of make sense when you think about that, but...
Worst yet, after losing a certain amount of health, he starts throwing airwaves every time he uses his teleport punch attack, making it even harder to dodge. Just look at this image of Jasper's second form right here. He rips off Batman! No wonder Jasper had Bat in his name! Really? It's a Batman Joker Superman mix-up! If you are near a window and Jasper hits you, there is a good chance that he'll Falcon punch you and die instantly! This phase is so freaking cheap! Even if you somehow manage to defeat Form 2, Jasper reveals his third form and— Oh, come on!
That creepy giant baby!
I've already ranted on this form before that this is lame compared to my final form. And again, my final form is way more cooler than this. This right here has to be the worst concept for a final boss ever. This doesn't look scary or imposing. This looks like a rejected Looney Tunes character. As for the final phase, while not as sadistic as the previous phase was, but it is very annoying due to the wonky camera, and Jasper's attacks are extremely powerful and have a long range as well. It's ridiculously confusing because he can punch you from literally anywhere in the room. But nonetheless, it's still easy. What were you smoking when you created this abomination of a battle?
At least the music is good.
Yes, the soundtrack is marvelous and slaps. So, unlike Metal Robotnik, this has a redeeming factor as the rest of No More Heroes 2's soundtrack slaps. But I'm still not done! When you finally kill Jasper, it's not satisfying at all! He dies with a huge grin on his face! He doesn't even scream in agony! Yes, you can argue that both 𝔬𝔬𝔦 and 𝔬𝔫𝔻 both die with a grin on their faces, but at least they were funny and entertaining!
I mean, at least for them it made sense! They were planning to take the heroes down with them! Ah!
But here, he dies with a grin for absolutely no reason!
You know what? I utterly hate, despise, and loathe this battle! Because in every single way to me, it is a rage-inducing experience! When the game fills up a #1 assassin, I was genuinely rooting for and begging for an epic battle, like Henry from the first No More Heroes. But he shoves his irritating self right into the limelight! He's a murderer! He's annoying! He's maddeningly difficult to beat, and he robbed me of a good final battle! I hate him! I hate him! And never before have hated a final boss so down to my very core of my life! 𝔰𝔬𝔫 Jr. is everything I hate about a bad final boss! It's unfair, it's boring, it's anticlimactic, it's tedious, it's a terrible experience, and an insult to an awesome game, making this the worst final boss I've ever faced! And while I love No More Heroes 2, I'll never forgive the developers for this terrible final boss! I'm gonna take this fight and shove it right up his...
Ollie! Stop! Calm the heck down! Please! This is getting out of hand!
I'm terribly sorry, Olivia. This guy literally triggered me to no end, and he made me angry. Though not as angry as my reaction to Mr. Freeze from Batman and Robin. But still, my experience with Jasper isn't pleasant in the slightest. Alright, I'm calm now, as I'm feeling much better. Now, before we reveal the best final boss in video game history, here are some honorable mentions!
And the Princess Shrew from Partners in Time! That music gives me the chills every time! Da 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 da.
Gygus from Earthbound, classic nightmare fuel.
Ganon from Ocarina of Time! A true classic, the Zelda games are so special to me.
Hades from Kid Icarus Uprising, an incredible fight against the Lord of the Underworld.
Bowser from Super Mario Galaxy! Such an awesome finale in space!
Ripto from Spyro 2, definitely fitting for the best Spyro villain.
Kefka from Final Fantasy 6, I think that's it. Who is this? I feel like I've heard this name before, but I don't know who this is.
Yami from Okami, another epic battle.
Xemnas from Kingdom Hearts 2! Don't ask me to clarify, Kingdom Hearts is very confusing to try and explain.
Nega Wisp Armor from Sonic Colors, a true battle against the iconic video game scientist himself.
King Olly from Paper Mario the Origami King! Seriously, brother, you're amazing!
Dreamy Bowser from Mario & Luigi Dream Team. Bowser really knows what he's doing now!
Baby Bowser from Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. He is an absolutely terrifying for a baby. And when you think about it, the example of a creepy baby boss done right.
And King K. Rool from Donkey Kong Country 1, an epic showdown against the King of Crocs.
Now that my brother has recovered from his hatred, rampage, tirade, whatever, about Jasper Jr., and before we get to the best final boss ever, let's recap!
Number 5, Cortex and Uka Uka, one of the best 2 against 1 fights.
Number 4, Galim and Dokon. Dark vs. Light, the ultimate fight!
Number 3, Magolor, crowned as the best epic fight in the Kirby games.
And number 2, Dark Bowser and Dark Star Core. And in the final hour of fading light. That song never gets old.
This is it, folks! We've reached the summit of the best final bosses! Wait. Am I missing another franchise that nobody covered? Oh yeah! Undertale!
Warning! Massive spoilers ahead! Just letting anyone who hasn't played the games know.
If you finished Undertale but haven't gotten the true ending, you haven't really finished Undertale. The good news is that it's not hard to get. Just complete the game without killing anyone and make sure to befriend every major character. If you're level 1, at the end, you're golden. Go finish the game and then wander around until you get a phone call. Follow the directions from there. If you have seen the true ending, let's talk about it.
This is where the spoilers start, by the way.
Let's set the stage. Asriel, the misguided demon prince who's been following and hounding your character, better known as Frisk, for the whole game, has absorbed your friend's souls and emerged from flower form just in time to play with you. It's me, he says, your best friend.
Plot twist!
This is something of a shocker. You'd heard of Asriel, the child of Asgore and Toriel. But who would have thought he was actually Flowey the whole time? The first character you meet in the game, the one who tries to convince you that the mantra of Undertale's world really is kill or be killed. That was Asriel all along? It's a good thing you never listened, or else you wouldn't be here.
Yeah, we don't talk about genocide, no. We don't talk about genocide.
Anyways, Asriel's here to fight you, and he brought along one hell of a theme song. And it is beautiful! Asriel is one of the 3 possible final bosses, specifically of the game's pacifist route. I promised myself I would never play the genocide route. And the neutral route's final boss is good too. But Asriel is by far the most narratively satisfying. The point of the pacifist route is, as the name suggests, spare every monster you meet. Don't even throw a punch if you can help it. At the end, every monster comes to keep you from fighting the game's fake-out final boss, King Asgore. Unfortunately, that's what the game's central antagonist Flowey wanted. He then proceeded to absorb the souls of every monster in the underground to regain his original body, that of the king's dead son, Asriel. At first, this feels like any other fight. One you can win by outlasting your opponent and saying the right things, but you'll soon realize that your only interaction options are hope and dream. Certainly not enough to convince this demon child to go away.
I mean, aren't hopes and dreams the start of any action, though? The hope that something you do will make an impact, and the dream of following through and making things better?
As Asriel starts firing attacks at you, whipping out shooting stars and energy beams in attempts to blast you to oblivion, he'll explain that he just wants things to go back to how they used to be. He wants to hit the reset button and go back to before. Before that first human ruined everything. Before an interloper named Frisk started trying to save the world. At some point during this barrage of bullets, you might lose all your HP. You'll start to see the standard game over screen. Then this will happen. You can't die, of course. You just can't. You're too determined. In order to free everyone, you have to fight the newly revived prince. The battle is a spectacle with stars, psychedelic background imagery, and lots of hopes and dreams. You can't hurt Asriel, but you can't die either. After a couple dozen rounds with Asriel, he'll start to realize that he can't destroy you. After a while, Asriel transforms into a more godlike form, and the music will swell once again. His final form is immense in power that you can't do anything, except for calling on your friends. You don't have many options at this point. Your health is low, but you can't use healing items. You can't fight or spare or even try to run away. Your only command option is struggle, which is more than a little disconcerting. You begin to worry that you did something wrong, that you'll have to start again.
I hope it doesn't do recoil damage like in Pokemon.
At this point, it becomes clear that if you're gonna win, you're gonna have to do something drastic. Earlier, you'd learned that the player can manipulate events in the world of Undertale through save files. So that's what you'll try to do. But 𝕬𝔬𝔫 stops you. By absorbing all of those souls, he's gained the ability to block your powers. Seems saving the game really is impossible, Undertale tells you. But maybe, with what little power you have, you can save something else. That's when you figure it out. You're going to save your friends.
Oh my goodness, that wordplay is genius!
At this point, you have to free them all individually. As the music swells up and down, you'll gradually save each friend, dodging their old attacks and bringing them back from the abyss by reminding them of the memories you've shared. Crosswords.
Spaghetti.
Butterscotch pie.
Ooh, butterscotch. Yummy. I like butterscotch.
It's an incredible few minutes, enhanced by the stakes, the music, and for me, the sudden realization that these characters are actually kinda cool. Yeah, even Alphys. Especially Sans. And Papyrus. And Undyne. Once you free them all, you realize that in order to beat Asriel, there's one more monster you need to save. Asriel himself. And if you're not already bawling as you mash the save button over and over again during the final part of this fight, well, you will. The whole sequence is spectacular. The payoff of this battle justifies even the slowest of Undertale setups. And the music, dear Lord, the music. I listened to the final boss theme and it was wonderful. Combine both titles together and you get Hopes and Dreams Save the World.
Oh my goodness!
This feels like the true endgame of a video game more than the grand finale. Or in the final. I actually love this theme more than in the final. Because at the very least, this doesn't repeat itself over and over again. This is more epic than Shiny Robo Bowser and Nega Wisp Armor. Undertale is a game that deals with a lot of issues, and Asriel has to deal with the inevitability of death. He died tragically as a child, trying to honor his late friend. His soul shoved into a flower unwittingly, but as a result, he was left a husk of his former self. Especially emotionally. Now he took the pleasure in resetting the timeline over and over again just to see different outcomes, until you came along. Now as you fight him, you have to help him realize that his continued existence would only cause others to suffer, and that he needs to move on. The moment after you win, when he reverts back to his child appearance and cries on your shoulder, is one of my favorite moments in all of video games.
It's making me cry!
This game as a whole is incredibly emotional, and the thing that got me to care so much about the quality of characters in fiction. Asriel is the ultimate culmination of that. Whether you see him as an enemy who captured the friends you made, or as another soul you need to save, you can't deny that Asriel is one of the best characters in this game. And my favorite final boss in video game history. It is so beautiful. Not only is Asriel my favorite final boss of all time, but this battle has my favorite final boss theme ever. Whew, that was awesome and intense, wasn't it?
It was! That was a roller coaster of emotions!
I hope you enjoyed our list of our best and worst final bosses, and I do apologize about my rage against Jasper Bat Jr., though my rage is 100% justified. So, sister, did you have fun?
Heck yes! This was awesome! I hope we can do this again sometime! Do any of you watching want to see me return in the future? Let us know down below, and let us know your top 5s as well. We'd love to see what your favourite and least favourite bosses are. Your lists will probably be a lot different than ours.
This truly is an experience for the both of us.
Indeed.
So, stay tuned for the next episode of the King Olly Show.
Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to keep up with future episodes and awesome content.
Actually, before I end this episode right here, I would like to give a shout out to Lily, aka Boom Fanfic-a-Latta. Subscribe to her on YouTube, follow her on Tumblr, and check out her amazing content containing randomness, insanity, fourth wall breaks, songs, and more. Also, she's been in the Origami King musical and the Koopa Troop cover of In the Final. And finally, follow her on Discord. All the links will be in the description. So anyway, I shall see you next time on the King Olly Show. Thanks for watching!